if you can start building that mindset, then you will start seeing solutions emerging automatically. Yeah. If somebody wants to put somebody else in spot under the bus, start saying, hey, it didn't happen because of that reason. I at least need to see one person, right, who says that, yeah, it stops with me and I could have done this. Yeah, right. Or I could have.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast. I'm Rahul Abhishek, the founder of HireWithEve.ai, an AI agent for applicant screening that helps reduce the hiring time by 90%. Our today's guest is Mr. Mahendran Dilli. To introduce Mahendran, he's the Senior Vice President of People Operation at Indium Software, which is an AI-driven digital engineering giant. With a career spanning in leadership role in industry giants such as Cognizant and Reliance Retail, Mahendran brings with him a wealth of experience in driving people-centric strategies and operational excellence. So, welcome to the podcast, Mahendran.
Thank you, Rahul. It's great meeting you and knowing you today.
Same here. So, why don't we start our conversation by you first telling our audience a bit about yourself, your journey, and how did you reach where you are today?
Right. So Mahendran, I'm with Indium Software for the last 2.5 years. Currently, Rahul, I manage this portfolio called People Operations for India. So typically, which means that this comprises of resource management group, operations, and talent acquisition. So the end-to-end of what a customer would look forward to from a fulfillment standpoint. Right? So that's a single point of a team that takes care of all the requirements of a customer from a demand to fulfillment. And taking a few steps back, right? I used to let me start from my initial career on how I started, right? So I joined this company called Saint-Gobain Glass as a fresher. So it's a manufacturing unit, and I spent around 4+ years there. And over a span of time, realized that I need to start, getting into different aspects of industry and HR. So I moved to retail industry called Shoppers Stop in Hyderabad, and from there on, I moved to Hutch Telecom. It is one of the erstwhile early projects of telecom based out of Chennai. I was doing the HR for Hutch Telecom, and from Hutch to ING Vaishya Bank into different industry and domain. There I used to manage regional HR operations for around 18 regions based out of Chennai, and then I moved to corporate roles over there. From there to Reliance Retail. So Reliance Retail, again, back to the retail forte of what I was doing before, but it's pretty much at a scale of the new aspiration of Reliance. They wanted to build out retail stores and all of that. So, and the last stint before Indium was with Cognizant. Okay, so that's the longest of stint I had, 15 years with Cognizant. Done multiple hats. I used to head the talent management for a business unit, large business unit, and did roles like HR mergers and acquisitions. So I was instrumental, right, managing teams that were doing people transition, right, for the company for various deals. And last 2.5 years with Indium Soft. So the journey has been, I would say, enriching and accelerating because of the kind of changes consciously. I also made from a learning standpoint, from a growth standpoint, and looking back, I think it has evolved, right, over a span of last 2 decades plus.
Yeah. So definitely, you've had a really long career within the domain of HR. So one of when we were doing our research, we came to understand that you in fact have a BSc in biochemistry, and that is very interesting. So
Yeah.
how did that transition happen from biochemistry to the whole domain of HR, and you've stuck by it all these years? So something definitely resonated with you. What was it, and what made you make that transition?
It's interesting, Rahul. I think great to see your levels of research of getting to the BSc Biochem as a degree I did. Yeah, see, initially as any youngster who wants to get into something, right, with no major clarity of roles, etc. I think it all started with aspiration for medical, right. When the medical did not materialize, it became a paramedical opportunity of biochemistry. By completing that, I've realized that, right, when I got to the close of biochemistry, I realized maybe that's not the calling for me. Right? I want to do something else better. And I felt that my natural instinct of being around driving initiatives, right, wants to do something at scale, even at college days, etc. I felt that why didn't we get into something else absolutely new, right? And from there on, doing something new has been my aspiration, right? Going through some challenges has been my aspiration. So then I started taking up opportunities, starting from manufacturing onwards, right, which was a fresher or a trainee kind of requirement, which happened naturally. But later I started building on it. I think, yeah, thanks for triggering the early days of.
Of course, of course, of
Yeah.
course. And can you open up a bit more about the whole domain of HR and of course you've risen right from the very early stages of the career all the way to the senior leadership now. So what about the domain in a way resonates with you, your perhaps mission in life?
Yeah. So if you really look back, Rahul, from the days of early days of HR, right, when it see, by definition it used to be a function that was driving, right, people and operations and transactions and all of that, right? It all started like that. But over a span of time, when you really look at the kind of maturity and learning curve of human resources organization, I think today as we speak now, the amount of seat at the table, right? The kind of P&L mindset that you're holding in making sure that, right, you're impacting either the top line or the bottom line of the company, right? By making sure the right talent is coming at the right time, and they drive the kind of outcome that the company is looking forward to from a growth standpoint. I think it's all about connecting the dots between business and people, and make sure that you be the enablement bridge, and don't become a barrier. Right? End of the day, it's all about, are you really enabling the growth, enabling the organization, enabling careers, or for the sake of it, right? Should we start looking at processes, policies, etc. If it's getting too complicated, not being relevant for the need of the hour, right? I don't think we exist around. So I'm a firm believer that I think you should really put in your effort, time, and money on areas where you really feel, right, it is going to have a business impact, and it should be meaningful, right? If it is not relevant and meaningful, I don't think, right, any initiative for that matter uh, is more of an initiative, but may not have a great outcome.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you, in fact, thank you for sharing that, and you almost answered one of the next questions. However, just to put it across, so we believe that HR is definitely one of the superheroes of the organization, bringing people together and letting them work on the mission and handling both the EQ side and the productivity side. So, what has been your vision when it comes to the domain of HR? And we look at it from a business growth point of view and success of the company point of view.
Yeah. See, okay. So if you're referring to HR being a superpower or whatever it is, I think I think it's very, very contextual to know what we do and how we do things, right? I would say in a way, right? Why would we assume, or why where I believe that HR is actually acting as a superpower today? If you see that, Rahul, it's all about, right, one, do you understand, right, the people well? Do you understand the company well? And you understand the kind of bit of technology, right, on connecting the people, process, etc. well? And so with all this, right, if you believe that somebody holding all this, right, and trying to drive the positive outcomes for the company, driving positive messages for the company, then you call it a superpower, right? But on the other side, Rahul, if you really ask me on what are the typical gaps that I see as outside in, right? So I used to be, hardcore personnel management slash HR, transition into operations, into resource management, into people ops today. But you look at the transition, and if you reflect back on areas where I believe HR should start thinking differently, etc. One, if you're not understanding business, the way in which business understands business, or if you're not able to talk the language of business, the way in which they would appreciate, right, that HR is understanding business, or if you don't hold the kind of going back to my earlier message of the P&L mindset, if you do not know what really impacts the company with respect to, see, how are we actually growing, right? What is the real vision for the company? What is driving growth? What is driving profitability? If your initiatives or actions are not aligned back to that, right, somewhere I think we're not making a great meaning for the outcome. So going back, I think if you ask about the superpower from a HR as a function standpoint, if I need to talk about one thing today, we are very good as HR in giving a lot of positive messages, right? Saying, hey, this is what is happening well, and whatever has happened because of initiatives, etc., etc. But if we really ask about one weakness, are we able to understand, saying that, right, that's a real challenge on the ground, and are we able to go back and tell with confidence, right, saying that, hey, if you don't do ABC, it is going to have a negative impact on something. So as my CEO typically says, Rahul, right, it's a very interesting analogy. See, when it comes to good news, it can take stairs, absolutely fine. But when it comes to bad news, it should take an escalator, right? So reach out for support, give early heads on, right? Work, collaborate, and try and see what are the kind of triaging you need to do within the company to make sure you solve issues, right? It doesn't matter whether you're from HR, you're from marketing, you're from no, finance, right? If you're not solving that for the larger purpose of the growth of the company around, I think somewhere we're not aligned as an org is what I would say.
Definitely, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. And any nuance, whatever you're able to share on this quickness of sharing, let's say, bad news much earlier with the support system. Any example that comes to your mind that you can share?
See, I'll tell you about an experience in the past, right? And I think we had a situation when we used to drive campus hiring at large, okay, thousands of campus hiring, multifold of thousands of campus hiring we used to do and all that, right? It was with the context that it's absolutely important for us to engage with campus. It's absolutely important for us to do the right thing of helping your company's growth and pyramid and all of that. But when you know that there are times, there are tough times when you will not be able to do that kind of volumes and all that. It's extremely important, right? One, for us to be upfront and communicate, saying, hey, there is a challenge, right, on the ground, and go back and tell your own internal stakeholders and external stakeholders, including some of the campuses that you work with, etc. But during those tough times, how are we actually helping each other, right? In ensuring that whenever the next batch happens, right, whenever the outcome of next batch happens, that is more meaningful and relevant. Right, today they might be training people on ABC, and if you believe that, right, things are not going to be uh, relevant when you complete all of that. Is there any kind of early on engagement that you can have, right, as a corporate, more of industry and institute kind of interaction to see how can we help each other, right? That's one thing. And taking some decisions for the sake of not for the sake of doing it, Rahul, but if at all you need to even push down and delay some of the decisions, communicating it back to the right stakeholders, the employees and customers, saying why we are doing what we're doing, right? So these two things of, right, making sure negative impact, you really nail it, right, by making sure the right levels of communication is enabled on time, and all the impacted parties, they needs to be informed, and they need to know what next, right? They need to know how are we helping each other during tough times, and then everybody comes out successful, right? Maybe there's a delay of 3 months, 6 months, but when it happens, it happens in a big way, in a very impactful way.
Right, right, right. Makes sense. So now, just to switch gears a bit, and you having been in the industry for so long, can you share what kind of changes you've seen in form of either trends or practices in the last few years that you really see is impacting now the domain?
Yeah. See, one of the biggest of changes, Rahul, I think the tech and AI adoption today, right? If we don't understand what is happening around with respect to tech and AI, I think right, it's not going to be helpful to drive scale, to drive efficiencies, etc. Right? Um, I'm sure you are from with your kind of industry that you are in. The kind of early adoption, the kind of engagement, and getting your teams together, right, uplifting them to start using that is one key transformation as a journey many companies are taking, and many companies have started taking it. So that's one piece of it, Rahul. Second part of change, right, that I think we need to start thinking about is how do we drive efficiencies, right? How do we drive how do we drive efficient outcomes for the company? If you ask me, Rahul, from personal experience standpoint, right, I believe in this very simple analogy of, right, simplification, standardization, and optimization.
Yeah.
Right? If you look at any processes for that matter, if you're running it for a while, and over a span of time, what can you do for the process? Right? Start looking at simplifying it. start looking at standardizing it, start looking at optimizing it. Right? In the sense, when I say simplification, it doesn't mean that you don't get to the details, but it's all about the total time taken for completion. If you can reduce it, remove any of the hurdles, remove any of the barriers that are available. It could be different levels of signatories that are involved for no reason. Like simplify all of that, and then try and see if you can standardize and make it more repeatable, right? By automating it, by using AI, whatnot, right? And last, when I say optimization, is all about, right, within a span of, say, if you take a typical time of 8 to 12 hours of SLA or ETA for a process, if you're able to refine and get to something which can be done in a few hours, right? Not just it saves time for that person who's doing it on the job, but upstream and downstream, there are a lot of people would actually benefit from different functions by doing some simplification. Right? Now, if you ask me about personal experience of having done it before, right? In the past, I did this program management called Project Right Source for a company. Okay. What we mean by Project Right Sources, some of the so-called the core processes of HR, okay, I believe that we can actually transition to shared services.
Okay.
Right. I'll tell an example, right? If you take about reward and recognition as a process, which is very close to heart of HR, we understood opportunities where somebody is sitting and doing something called as the points awarding, etc. within HR, right? That's clearly a shared service process. And somebody is actually sitting and doing vendor management, vendor calls, vendor mails, design of certificates, rewards, etc. That is a repeatable shared service process. When I did all of that, right, the HR felt that the teams felt that 80% of rewards have gone from us, right? So what is there with us within HR? Then we started brainstorming, whiteboarding, and we realized the biggest of gap that we had was who was thinking about making the rewards very relevant for the business. Who was thinking about what behaviors to be awarded, what behaviors to be recognized to drive the outcomes. Example, if you're in a operations as a function, and if you don't start rewarding, uh, how closely are you committing on the revenue between sales and delivery, right? How closely are you committing on the margins between functions, etc. That is exactly the behavior what we should be recognizing for, right? If you're part of CCO's office or operations. But many times we end up generalizing rewards, saying that it's star of the month, right? Golden award, whatnot, right?
Yeah.
But not really getting to the core of why are we doing a reward, right? It's about driving the business outcome. It's about impacting on the ground and telling them, saying, hey, these are top 3 4 behaviors that should get recognized, which will have a positive outcome to the larger purpose of Ikigai for the company. If you're touching that, if your process is not touching the Ikigai, right? If your optimization or standardization is not touching the Ikigai, then I think you're not really adding value. Just one example. Right? Similarly, we did multiple transitions in exit management process, in performance management process, etc. Right? I'm happy to get to details, but all that I'm saying is, right, it's extremely important for us to be agile, for us to be operationally efficient, and see how best we can drive transformation at large.
Of course, and it's great. Would be great to also hear your thoughts on the concept of Ikigai and how you're in a way looking at the various operational efficiency area with that lens.
Right, right. See, when it comes to Ikigai personally, Rahul, I think if you are part of any function for that matter, right? Let's take an example of you being the CHR of a company, right? So whom are you touching? End of the day, right? You have stakeholders, you have customers to be managed, you have employees to be managed, correct? So what would employee look forward to, right? The employees will look forward for clear career roadmap. They look forward for growth. They look forward for maybe comp and benefits. They look forward for right rewards at the right time, etc. Right? So their purpose of taking up an opportunity, right, could be on those areas, right? But if take an example of comp and benefit, okay,
Right.
many a times we lose talent because of the reason. But if you're able to do the kind of right structuring and get the right talent, take an example of you're part of a sales organization, right? What would drive you, right? You will be thrilled by driving outcomes for the company, getting new customers, winning new deals, etc. Right? If your total rewards at comp and benefits is not linked back to that, then your Ikigai is not really right. You should have a Ikigai back, attaching back to the company's purpose of growth vis-a-vis your sales team. So that is one track of employee as an example, right? Come to customers. Right? How are we helping customers? Right? If you're understanding customers well, and if you are helping customers to solve their customers' problems, right? Put yourself onto their shoes to see, right? What is the Ikigai for a customer, and what are they trying to solve? Who are the customers? How are they creating impact? How can we help each other? If you start thinking on those lines, right, you're somewhere addressing the purpose of their purpose, correct? From a customer standpoint. And last but not the least are stakeholders, which means our own internal. It could be our internal, leaders. It could be our people that are connecting dots with customers. Everybody. Unless and until the alignment and collaboration of those teams are connected well for a larger purpose of the company, you will start seeing a lot of initiatives start fading away, right? Derailing. You will start seeing a lot of conflicts emerging, etc. I wouldn't say conflicts are bad, right? But how do we make sure those are healthy enough to drive the Ikigai for the company, for the customer, for the employees, right? That would be my few cents.
Great. Thanks for that. Thanks for elaborating on that. Now, of course, we touch based also on the latest AI trend and the various kind of operational efficiency it has brought. When it comes to employee experience, have you noticed certain examples, innovations, which really caught your attention in terms of how before we were not able to do it, however today there are means and methods to do it?
Right. So I'll tell you a small little example, right? Because you're connecting AI, you're connecting employees, right? One of the biggest of initiatives that HR tries to drive in companies is on retention, right?
Correct.
Retention initiative, and it's understood, mostly as attrition in many places,
Right.
but also understood as some of the initiatives like doing a exit interview to check retention possibility, which is absolutely not the best way to do it. And there are two companies that are looking at stay interviews to see, right, potentially who might leave, etc. But again, that's also old school process of, right, trying to see who might leave, etc. Right, because in order by doing some of that, you will end up triggering more possible attrition, if I
Right.
So I think if you start looking at your available secondary data, right, available within your own company, your own systems, it could be employee satisfaction survey results. It could be your own performance appraisal data that you have. It could be your own skills data that you have. It could be your own compensation benefits data that you have. You will be able to start using technology for good, right? The secondary data for good to take some right decisions, right? We built something called the early warning system.
Okay.
In one of the past roles I was doing, Rahul. So typically what it does is, based on the kind of different data sets that we have, right? If an employee is actually a high performer or a high potential guy, also has a super niche skill, but the compensation data says that he's at P50 today of the median, right? So somewhere you should tag that person as a red alert, right? And start making sure that the right opportunities, the right levels of benefits comes to the person on time. Maybe you may have to start looking at some role rotation for them, so that the kind of investments the customer would be giving is actually getting to this person, not to a wrong resource. Correct.
Right.
So we can make it more win-win for the company and for the individual as well. So such a beautiful system, Rahul, more of an internally built one, which will give you a lot of triggers, right? Called as a departure susceptibility index, DSI. Okay, who are the potential employees that could attract because of various reasons? It could be calm, it could be skilled ones not getting paid well, it could be the top performers, who are into a bucket of having not gone through any training, right? Who might even leave for learning and other opportunities, etc., etc. Right? So just one example, Rahul. Right? So similarly, if you start using technology for various other initiatives, right? If you're part of the first example was more of, if you're an HR person, I gave you that example, right? But if you're part of a teams like a resource management group or talent supply chain, how are you using AI? How are you using technology for looking at demand to supply mapping? See, you might have thousands of demands from customers, right? Similarly, you might also have thousands of people available within your own company, and there could be a lot of unbuilt talent as well. But if you're not able to utilize a system for good, right, or even if you don't have a great system, it's absolutely fine, Rahul. But do you have a simple Excel that has the kind of latest updated skills of the talent, aspirations of the talent, right? If you have it, and then it's more of a simple, search and match kind of a function you can enable and see who are the best ones that should get nominated for the opportunity, and how do you take that, right? It's the second example, Rahul, right? Similarly, I can give you a few more, but no, depends on context. We can keep building on it.
Of course, of course. And I think now we've talked a lot about retention. Would be also great to get your thoughts, as well as also the challenges a company faces in acquisition of great talent.
Yeah,
Or yeah,
absolutely. See, acquisition, Rahul, see in the current role of TA leader for the company as well, right? I think the kind of challenges are common at industry level, right? I think one, what are you known as a brand for, right? So if you are a company that wants to attract, right, talent from say product experience or talent from services experience, etc., right? How are you positioning your brand well, right, to attract those talent? Right? Talent branding is extremely critical. And number two is, what is the kind of employee experience of the internal employees, right, that are talking about the company, right? What kind of messages are are you actually sharing it back to the team so that they become the brand ambassadors over a span of time? I'll give you a very interesting analogy in my current place, Rahul, right? I'm part of Indium Software. And currently, 50% of our, 50 to 40 to 50% of our hiring happens through a program called Employer Referral, which we call it as a BYOB. Okay,
okay,
build your own, bring your own buddy, right? So typically, what it means is, if I'm an employee who's happy about the kind of role, the kind of opportunities that are available within, only then I'll go and recommend somebody, correct?
yeah,
So from whatever less than 10% to shift to 45 to 50% of that channel working for us extremely well also means that, right, there is this kind of stickiness for the brand. There is a kind of attraction factor, and people see a purpose of, right, joining a company like this from a growth standpoint, from their aspiration standpoint, and from a confidence that know how the company is taking care of them and growing overall, right? Uh, so it's all about connecting between what you have as a demand vis-a-vis how you position your brand, and number three is how you take care people for a long time, right? But attraction in today's scenario, of course, right, with the kind of markets opening up, etc., is a real challenging area for anybody for that matter. But I think if you do the right things, right, if you start pushing your levers more on trusting your internal talent to help recruiting teams to build scale, that will surely work. And very interestingly, Rahul, if you start looking at some levers like that, right, one of the biggest of challenges that a TA leader has today is on offer conversions,
okay,
right? People are even talking about, right, challenges of um, uh, 30 to 40% of joiners in some skills and all that. But very interestingly, the more and more you are able to push through internal challenge, right, the conversions go north of 80% level.
okay, okay. And
Yeah,
when you say internal channel, do you mean this referral way of
correct.
converting?
Correct.
Understood.
Correct.
Understood.
Correct.
Okay, that's
Absolutely.
a
And,
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
and one last thing, Rahul, I think today it's also important, right? See, that is one part of talent acquisition. I'm solving it, say, 40% through that channel. But the rest of it on how you are taking care of your other ecosystems, right? Of your own career page. How is that attracting talent? Right? What can I do from a brand positioning there to make sure, right, the right profiles are coming in, and how are you taking care of the inflow of the profiles, right? To taking some action on those profiles, getting back to talent on time, whether they're getting selected or getting on hold or rejected, what messages are going back. It's extremely important to make sure, right, you start giving the kind of confidence back to the talent that is applying for the company, Rahul. And last but not the least, your partners, right?
Right.
You might have vendor partners to come and support you for some tough skills and all that. But unless and until you don't start treating them as your own talent acquisition teams and not start engaging with them appropriately or accordingly, right, you may not see success through the channel as well. See, they need to be treated the same way as your own recruiting team. So they need to know the kind of transparency on why some profiles are going through or not going through. Correct. Your internal teams might be able to push additional panels, but the external vendors may not be able to push panels. Right? How are we helping each other? It's extremely important, right? Start treating them well, and I'm sure things will fall in place, right, Rahul, for growth of the company. If you make sure
Yeah.
internal channels and external channels are well enabled.
Yeah, I mean that's a great advice and also strategy, and I'm sure it will actually work, and whoever is listening to this can actually benefit from this. So thank you for sharing that. Would be great to understand a bit about the challenges that you then face as a leader within the domain of HR, and how have you gone about addressing it?
So challenges as a leader, Rahul, I think it's all about, how are you building trust and transparency, right? See, there's always this thing called, right, existence and coexistence theory. Okay, if you join a new company, right, the initial, 2 to 3 months is all about your own existence, on how you get settled, right? How you try creating an impact, understand the kind of company, uh, make it work like yours, right? And the
Right.
first 3 months are about your initial settling down, getting a grip for yourself. So, which means if you don't do some of the right things at the right time in the first 3 months, right, things will start falling flat. Okay, you may not
Right.
be able to get to the next quarter or whatever, right? So that is your existence part. The coexistence is all about, right, how are you treating your peers, how are you treating your teams, right? What do they feel about you, right? And what kind of comfort are you giving? And most importantly, the underlying factor of the value creation, correct? So where I'm getting to, Rahul, is that if you don't start building the trust and confidence of the teams through value creation, right? As a leader, you will start, getting through a lot of challenges. So it's extremely important to enable that. Right? And number two is, how are you selecting your teams, right? How are you making sure that you get more diverse teams coming inside your, inside your practice, your division or your organization? How are you helping that cause? And number three is, how comfortable are you to get challenged,
Right.
right? Hiring better people than you, managing better people than you, which means that you need to start upgrading yourself. And number two is help that person as well. And three is, right, get ready for getting challenged every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in essence, right, it's not always going to be a smooth ride. So be prepared for a journey with a lot of turbulence, and which in turn ensures that, right, as a leader, you grow and you also get shaped, and you also get, ready for much more larger challenges in the days to come, Mara.
Yeah, yeah, great, great. So Mahendra, now we are coming to an end to our podcast. One of my final question is for the younger audience. Just the way you have transitioned to this particular domain, what would be your advice to the current generation looking to have a career within the domain of HR?
See, Rahul, one thing, let me make very clear. Current generation don't like too much of advice. Okay. So I'll just talk about, no, one thing for the current generation. I think whatever role that you're getting into, whether you're getting into HR or any function for that matter, right? Just keep this one, thing which I got from my own mentor, called the buck stops with you. Okay. So which clearly means that whether it is a success or failure, right, you own it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can start building that mindset, then you will start seeing solutions emerging automatically. Yeah. If somebody wants to put somebody else in spot under the bus, start saying, hey, it didn't happen because of that reason. I at least need to see one person, right, who says that, yeah, it stops with me, and I could have done this, right, or I could have tried, transitioning this way, but I think I failed. Yeah. If that ownership starts coming in, Rahul, it's absolutely fine. Yeah. So the buck stops with you could be the one single biggest learning that I had in life. And if you don't take ownership, nobody else will for you.
That's a great one line at least way to think about your career. So thanks a lot for that, Mahendran. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and for sharing your insights, Mahendran.
Very good. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend and a great week ahead. Thanks for
Great.
enabling this
Thank
opportunity.
you so much.